The Central Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting for May 11th, 2021 is called to order at 6:02. Please let the record reflect for purposes of attendance, all board members are present except for Trustee Paul. Our next item is adoption of the agenda. What are the wishes of the board on the agenda? I have a motion by Trustee Chan. I have a second by Trustee Brooks. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is comments from the public on our closed session items. At this time, if there is any member of the public wishing to address the board regarding any of our closed session items, the number to dial is 559-276-3150. And we will allow 30 seconds to pass before we move on to our closed session.
President Carrillo, we do not have any calls waiting in the queue.
Thank you. Hearing no comments from the public on our closed session items, we will now adjourn to closed session and return to public session at 7 p.m. or as soon as thereafter. Thank you. Central Unified Board of Trustees reconvenes to open session at 7:08. Please let the record reflect for purposes of attendance that Trustee Paul joined our meeting at 6:07. Items to report from closed session. The certificated personnel report was passed by a motion by Trustee Cervantes and a second by Trustee Solis, a vote of 7-0. Classified personnel report, also a vote of 7-0. Motion by Trustee Brooks and a second by Trustee Chan. And just a friendly reminder, if there are any members who are listening to us virtually, if you wish to provide a comment during public comment or during any item, please call as soon as the item is called. The presentation begins by administration, and the item to call, or the number to dial is 559-276-3150. And with that, we will move on to our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice President Solis.
Please stand to face the flag. Ready? Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Carrillo, do you mind at this time if we just take a moment of silence to recognize a teacher of ours that passed away, Brian Whitehead, who was a science teacher at Glacier Point, beloved father, husband, and dear friend to many. He served 26 years. Was it 26 years in Central Unified? 26 years in Central Unified. We did have a memorial last week on Thursday and planted a tree in his honor, and it was a very nice ceremony, so thank you to the Glacier Point staff and to also the Roosevelt staff. His wife is actually a teacher at Roosevelt Elementary with us as well, Stacy Whitehead. So you could just take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to our presentations and reports. First, we will hear from our school activities presentation, ASB President for Central High School, Emma Denny.
Yes, I have Emma Denny on the line. Emma, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great, you are on with the board.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. I'm Emma Denny, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Central High School, representing West Campus as the ASB president. As we have begun the new hybrid schedule, students have now, if they chose to be on campus, had time to adjust to the new class schedule starting at 7:30. In order to get students, especially incoming freshmen, well adjusted to the campus prior to their return, both East and West Campus held Grizz Days, an event to get students familiar with their home campus. Overall, it has been exciting allowing students back on campus while continuing to keep their safety in mind. This past weekend, prom was hosted at Wolf Lakes while keeping COVID guidelines in mind, and it was a success. The students who attended all gave positive feedback and were able to safely enjoy the night. Teacher Appreciation Week is currently taking place, which in honor of, leadership has planned out various ways to celebrate our teachers and staff each day this week in order to say thank you for all of their hard work and dedication in conjunction with making sure students are effectively learning and having a positive experience here at Central. This next week, as the school year begins to approach its end, various seniors will have the chance to be recognized at the Class of 2021 Grizzly Awards for either scholarships earned or academic awards before graduation night. This will take place on the 17th at East and the 18th at West Campus. Currently, a possible homecoming is in the works, which is being planned accordingly based on the COVID guidelines. Dress-up days as well as activities will take place during the week of the celebration in order to get students involved and excited for the event. Overall, many changes are approaching as the end of the school year and finals are around the corner as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. And with that, we'll move on to employee recognition. California Association of Supervisors of Child Welfare and Attendance, Assistant Superintendent Collegian.
Thank you, President Creel. We are proud to share that Ms. Maisie Young and Dr. Kevin Therosian, both of who work in our CWA office, were both recognized recently at the California Association of Supervisors and Child Welfare Attendants Conference, the state conference. Ms. Maisie Young was recognized for the San Joaquin Section Outstanding Service Award, and Dr. Therosian was named President-elect. I want to take this opportunity to formally congratulate both of them for their accomplishments and thank them for their hard work and dedication to our students and community here in Central Unified. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we give them a big round of applause? Again, congratulations. Next, we will hear from Employee Association highlights. First, Central Unified Teachers Association. Do we have a representative?
Yes, she will be on momentarily.
Thank you. And as we wait for our representative to join us, just a reminder, if there are any members of the public wishing to provide comments from the public, we will soon be taking those comments. And the number to dial is 559-276-3150.
Ms. Martinez, are you on?
Yes, this
Great.
is Judy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, President Carrillo. Good evening, Board Trustees and Superintendents. I would like to begin tonight by spotlighting all of our educators and students who, despite distance learning and COVID-19, met the challenge to submit students' work for Young Authors Fair. Central submitted 77 total entries, and our amazing students once again received a number of top awards. We have 2 exemplary selections and 7 honorable mentions. They are as follows. Exemplary selection for class book category, Hooray, written by Mrs. Hang's class from Folk Elementary. Exemplary selection in the middle school poem or narrative category, Despite Everything, written by Simon Sangara from Rio Vista Middle School. Honorable mention in the K-8 illustrator, A Valentine, written by Naomi Schaefer from Harvest Elementary. Honorable mention in the K-5 fiction category, Fluffy the Ducky, written by David Guzman from Houghton Kearney. Honorable mention in the K-5 class book category, The Things We Missed in 2020, written by Carol Arndt's class in Tilley Elementary. Honorable mention in the K-5 nonfiction category, Extinction, written by Bryson Yang from Tilley Elementary, and The Amazing World of Bats, written by Jesus Bautista, Tilley Elementary. Honorable mention for the middle school poem or narrative category, Dear Writer, written by Victoria Espinoza, El Capitan Middle School. Pandemic, written by Peyton Smith from El Capitan Middle School. Congratulations to all of our Young Authors Fair winners. And at the high school, we had 6 of the 12 competitors place at the state level of Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. This team is led by Alyssa Suzanne Fite and co-advisor Robin Butterfield. Our state places are Professional Presentation, first place, Cassandra Caro and Gabriela Ortiz. Second place, Repurpose and Design, Melody Stesso. Second place, Professional Presentation, Kong Meng Lee. Second place, Focus on Children, Emily Munoz. Culinary Display, Decorated Wedding Cakes, third place, Carrie Hale. And lastly, a third place for National Programs in Action for Marisa Rodriguez. Once again, congratulations to all of these students and our educators for continuing the hard work despite the challenges that they go through every day. And tomorrow, May 12th, is officially the California Day of the Educator, and this year's theme, as you know, Board Trustees, is Cultivating Minds and Healing Hearts. California's Day of the Teacher has its roots in the community and is patterned after the celebration of the traditional El Día del Maestro, which is observed in Mexico and Latin American countries. The California's Day of the Educator arose out of legislation co-sponsored by California Teachers Association and the Association of Mexican American Educators in 1982. Since then, every year in May, we honor instructional excellence in our public schools, community colleges, and our universities. And this school year has been like no other in our history. It has been challenging, stressful, exhausting, and overwhelming for all of us. This pandemic has affected each of our members in various ways. What isn't different is that all of our educators had to take on the incredible task of teaching, counseling, healing, caring, and testing virtually. The best way to describe what our educators went through and continue to go through is the idiomatic expression, building the plane as you fly it. This truly captures the feelings of risk and uncertainty that occur as our educators reorganize, restructure, and test lessons in real time with their students, while simultaneously being held responsible for continuing all other existing classroom practices, including the socio-emotional status of our students. And it is for that reason that our educators are our superheroes. This is why we honor them. Thank you, Central Unified Educators, for cultivating the minds of our students and healing their hearts. Thank you, Board of Trustees. You have a great evening.
Thank you. And can everyone just join me in a round of applause to all of our students for their accomplishments, please? Congratulations to all of our students, and thank you to all of our educators. Next, we will hear from California School Employees Association. President Chacon.
Good evening, board members. Kind of excited this evening, able to report to you guys, first time in a while. Happy to say that we come to an agreement, return to work stipend. With that being said, I'd like to thank everybody that participated in getting this done on both sides of the table. A lot of time and effort put into it, and I just want to say thank you guys. You guys have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on with our agenda, Superintendent and Board Communications. Superintendent Alvarado.
Thank you, President Carrillo, members of the board and staff and community. Just want to encourage everybody to continue to buy the Home of Hope tickets. They're on sale now for $100. Anyone can name a school or high school or co-curricular to get 50% of those proceeds. Congratulations to our Rio Vista 8th grade brothers, the Dollywall brothers. They are the State History Day champion for their exhibit in the junior group exhibit category. The Dollywall brothers will be advancing to compete in the nationals, at the national level, National History Day, representing California in June. Way to represent, and congratulations. Let's give them a big round of applause. That's amazing. You know, that last week we had the opportunity to interview the 7 recipients for the Janessa Ramirez Scholarship and announce to them that they were officially selected as the recipients of the $2,500 scholarship. Again, I mean, what a great group of kids that came forward. You know, there hasn't been a year that's gone by where, you know, it's actually has caused some tears to flow down the cheeks of all the adults that are in the room at that time. But just a tremendous group of kids, and you know, every single one of them talked about how important it is to give back to the community, which I thought was fantastic. The Janessa Ramirez virtual auction is happening now with memorabilia, trips, baskets, and more to benefit the scholarship fund. You can find that auction at the Foundation for Central Schools Facebook page. And this is just fresh off the press here. We have secured some autographed boxing gloves from the Golden Boy Oscar de la Hoya. So we will be auctioning those off as well tomorrow. I'm hearing that there are others that are going to be contributing to the Janessa Ramirez Scholarship in the boxing world. We have a pretty good connection these days in the boxing world, and he's coming through for us. So, thank you to the Golden Boy Productions and Oscar De La Hoya for that very generous donation. It also comes with the certificate of authenticity, so it is the real deal. So, if you want to see a picture of it, I have it on my phone. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any board member wishing to speak at this time? Okay. With that, we will move on to our comments from the public. Just a friendly reminder, this is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board on any item not currently on the agenda, but because the items are not agendized, the board cannot engage in any discussion or take any action on the item. Depending on your comment, you may be directed to speak to administration, or we may ask administration to provide any brief information if it is applicable. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. Please be respectful of everyone's time, and please conclude your comment during those 2 minutes. First, we will take any comments from the public that are here in person, and then we will take any comments from the public who may be calling telephonically. Once again, the number to dial if you wish to provide a comment during this time is 559-276-3150. So, Trustee Brooks, can you please call any in-person comments, please?
Yes. Liz Lintham.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Liz Latham. I have worked for the, I'm going to read quickly because I know I have my time. I've worked for the district for 23 years. I currently work in physical services at the business annex. I want to give my gratitude to the hazard pay that we voted on last night. I just want to voice my opinion on how it was handled. When I read the different tiers, I was like, cool, I follow in tier 2 because I know I worked for 3.5 or more hours daily. Then I was told by my union that no, I opted to telework. So I automatically go to tier 3 for telework. It's true, I did request to telework because of underlying health conditions, but my request was to minimize my exposure. So we agreed I would come into the office daily for 3.5 hours or more as needed. And mostly it was more as needed. I did this knowing a lot of my work cannot be done from home. I was not offered to flex hours like other departments. I was only offered to telework. Our office never closed its doors to the public through any of the pandemic. We knew we were essential workers. When I questioned my telework of the hours, I was shut down by my supervisors. I was told, sorry, nothing can be done, this is it. So then I emailed my president for the union and I said, listen, we agreed to this. I do have an agreement. And they said, sorry, we got the list from HR and there's nothing that can be done about it. I am very grateful for the hazard pay I am receiving. I just want to say that sometimes communications in different departments are not the same. Some of us are held to a different accountability, and I think that's where we need to work on more communication. As being here for 23 years, I really don't get involved with a lot. I do support my schools and where my children are going, that they attend. I've been in this district my whole life, since kinder at Teague, then ALCAP, then Central. Then I started working here at 18. So I mean, I support and I'm happy and I have a lot of gratitude for our district and for what I was given, and that I'm blessed that I have a job in through this pandemic. But thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other comments? In person? No. Do we have any telephonic comments?
We do not have any calls on the line.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no further comments from the public, we will move on to our consent agenda. Before I ask to see what the wishes of the board are on this item, I do just want to highlight that the consent agenda includes adoption resolution number 2021, recognizing School Nurse Day as May 12th, 2021. And so with that, what are the wishes of the board on this item? I have a motion by
Second.
trustee Cervantes. I have a second by trustee Solis. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Yes. Can you turn on your mic, please?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Thank you. I just wanted to, I was looking at the gifts. There was a $30,000 tractor that was donated. And all those gifts are very appreciative. But that is an amazing gift by Mr. Peters, if I'm not mistaken. Can we send out a special thanks for that particular incredibly generous gift?
Yes, thank you, trustee Cervantes. It's my understanding that with any gifts that we receive, we do send a thank you letter, and I apologize for not highlighting those gifts. So in the future, if I do forget, if I can just ask that any trustee please bring that to my attention, or please feel free to just highlight those things. Our consent agenda includes items that are routine, but we do want to highlight some of the important items. Recognizing any gifts is one of those items as well. So thank you, trustee Cervantes. I appreciate that. And with that, we move on to our action items. Our first item is L1, approved partnership contract with TNTP. Just a friendly reminder to any members of the public in person or watching us remotely, if you wish to speak on any of these items, I do ask that you please call when the item is called. As soon as the administration completes their presentation, we will take any public comment. We will then engage in board discussion, and depending for the action items, take action, or for information items, move on to the next item. So with that, we will hear from Assistant Superintendent Davis.
Thank you, President Carrillo.
Thank you.
On March 23rd, I presented our current status regarding unfinished learning, also referred to as learning loss mitigation. During that process, we identified an equity audit as a possible next step, which brings me to this evening. We're looking for an objective review to help us with ensuring that our focus is clear and directional for student improvement and support. Tonight, we are recommending approval of a partnership with TNTP to conduct a longitudinal data analysis and curriculum audit under the umbrella of student learning and support. Cabinet members reviewed multiple agencies to do the work. We removed from our review any of the do-it-yourself toolkits. We wanted an objective party to look at the information with a lens different than what we have been looking at repeatedly to make sure we're seeing all of the needs of our students and our student groups. Of the products that we reviewed, the one before you tonight we feel to be the most appropriate for our work. Other districts have reported successful experience with this vendor, and this vendor has also received very favorable feedback through CCEE, which is a California Collaborative of Educational Excellence. It is a source that the state uses to help promote resources that will help school districts in this work. And it is curated by administrators, teachers, and other educational professionals in the field. Our work is specific to have two parts to it. First, a longitudinal study of our data, looking at both the data that we had available prior to school closure as well as the learning loss data, which we shared March 23rd. Following that, there are two other steps to the work which you see in the attachment that include also taking a look at a sampling of assignments and an opportunity to talk to stakeholders and get feedback on what barriers might be stalling or making more difficult the work of accelerating student learning. Following that work, the findings will be presented and will allow us to add to our actions and make any adjustments if they bring forward some ideas that we can put into place quickly or over long term. I do recommend approval of this contract, including option A. You will see that there were some options for what we might study. As you have seen in our learning loss data, we are interested both in our needs for literacy, which doesn't focus solely on your English classroom, but literacy across all disciplines, and mathematics. So option A allows some in-person support in that work rather than it being done all virtually. You see the option, and to include both English language arts and mathematics. Happy to answer any questions you have regarding this if I can, and recommend approval.
Thank you. And so with that, we will take public comment. Trustee Brooks?
Laura Bolton.
Good evening, I'm Laura Bolton. So I apologize because I feel like my notes are a little bit like sketchy chicken scratch. I didn't have a whole lot of time to really do a ton of research and dig super deep. I did not see this as an information item on the board agenda. I looked back to see, did I miss it? Have I been too busy and did not see it? And I looked back a couple of months worth of agendas and could not find it. So to find this on the action list for today kind of surprised me. So I looked first at their website and looked at what we do and found information about doing things having to do with evolving teacher pay and evaluations. I found case studies that had to do with salaries and incentive pay. I found that their board members include people who have been on the board for or managing directors for KIP in Bay Area and Atlanta, Teach for America, and other charter organizations. I'm a little concerned that we're looking at a company whose goal appears to be to encourage charter schools and to undermine public education, to privatize it. That's what this appears to be, and I'm a little worried about it. I understand that that's not the goal for what we're trying to do here, and that the information on their website is varied, but their CEO, Dan Weisberg, right at the top, mentions that he's co-author of The Widget Effect, which was a study on teacher evaluation systems in 2009. That's old and inappropriate that we would have somebody that thinks that way coming into our district and giving us recommendations. That's before the Common Core was implemented in 2012, before the CASP, which is the State Accountability System, the testing system that we use, which started in 2015. So I get that we need an equity audit, and I don't disagree with that. And I think that you're right, we need an objective review, but I'm concerned that this is not the right company for us, and that their implementation reports and supports that they'll recommend in January of 2022 will be things that they offer, like let's bring in charter schools. So please consider carefully.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Do we have any comments?
We don't have any calls on the line right now.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, board discussion? Any Trustee Solis?
Ms. Davis, did we have more than one vendor apply for this item?
We did look at 3 sources that were similar in nature.
Okay, thank you. The representative from the Teachers Association, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I want to make sure I understood what you were saying, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
You have no issue with the right of the district to conduct an audit?
Nope.
Or the aim of the audit?
Nope.
The only issue you have is with the vendor, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. Any other questions or comments from the board? Trustee Paul?
Thank you. The timeline states that in November, December, there'll be essentially a finding. Will you come back to us in that time period to present the findings?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I do just want to clarify one of the comments from our public member. This item is appearing as action item for the first time. This was not presented as information, so you didn't miss anything in any of the agendas. And if administration wishes to provide a comment to that, or I can respond.
Sure, we had asked to bring it as an action item, just due to the timing of where we're at in the school year and wanting to get this work done sooner than later. It's gonna take some time, obviously, to come in and do the audit, and we didn't want to delay it any further.
Thank you. Trustee Chan and then Trustee Cervantes.
You know, obviously I got a number of messages around this too, and I appreciate the member of CUTA clarifying the point. I too would just, I guess, I'll probably, after Trustee Cervantes makes this point, I probably will make a motion if we can have an additional, bring it back for action at our next meeting, because I would like to at least look into the vendor a little bit further.
Thank you. Trustee Cervantes?
There was a mention of a couple other school districts in the area that were currently utilizing this consulting firm. I was just curious who they are and what the feedback was.
The closest are both Sanger and Fresno Unified. A little further from that would be Santa Maria Bonita and Guadalupe Unified. Feedback good. None of us are looking towards projects around teacher training or development of teachers. We're looking at the branch of evaluation. We don't have a psychometrician within our district to do that evaluative work. We are eager to begin the work before our data teams go to summer break so we can pull all the data and the work can be done over the summer. We are eager for that. And the work with most closely both a data diagnostic done in Sanger really helped them confirm some best practices. They were very happy with the project and the work in Fresno Unified. So far, all of the conversations I've had, they've been working with them for over 5 years, so I probably didn't capture all of what they've been working on, but they've had great success in the capacity building of their leaders in instructional leadership as a result of this type of a study.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
Point of order. Did Mr. Singh just make a motion to table the item?
Okay, so we have.
Then I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue the item to our next agenda, our next board meeting, which would be Tuesday, May 25th, 2021, and it would be to bring this back as an action item, correct? Trustee Chan? And we have a second by Trustee Solis. Any further discussion? Trustee Paul?
If we are to table it, thank you. If we are to table it, what's that going to do to the timeframe that we hope for the evaluation?
I will follow up and ask how much time is needed of our staff. It does give us a very short window to collect all of the information. I am concerned about that, but it would just adjust when we will have those results to begin our work. It pushes in the timeline of our beginning and end dates for COVID funding, but we will do what is needed. This is important work.
Thank you.
Can you provide any additional information regarding the other companies that were considered? I mean, do they provide any other similar evaluations that would still include like teacher evaluations? I know that's not the subject of this contract, but I know that was some of the concerns, or even just their potential ideology. Do they compare at all?
We didn't look for the topics that Ms. Bolton just brought up. We were specifically looking for equity audits, so I can speak to that. The 3 that we studied, and we looked at others. There are other entities that do this work. They are the ones that we ruled out because they have toolkits for you to do yourself the work. And the 3 that we looked at, 2 were very similar, this one and one other product. And the depth of the work and their research or history behind it was not as well supported. They're a newer agency, newer work. They had a few school districts that they had begun the work with, but maybe not as much depth as we found that we could find in these examples. And the 3rd of those looks to be a great tool for us for smaller projects, but didn't have the ability and scope for a district of our size to do this work. And so We think that they're a great entity, but for different projects for us.
And I have no problem with tabling the item. I am concerned about the timeline, but are there any questions from the board or any requests for additional information that would help us be better prepared when this item, if the motion carries for this item to return in May 25th, or are we just interested in doing some of our own research? Do we need to ask for any additional information? Trustee Paul?
Yeah, if I heard this right, you said they've been working with Fresno Unified for about 5 years? I know, we're obviously two different school districts, but it would be interesting, I think to me, at least as far as evaluation, to know what kinds of improvements they've seen. If we can get some sort of feel for that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
You have something? Okay. Trustee Cervantes, you had another comment, probably not related to my question. Do you want me to come back?
Sure.
Okay. Superintendent Alvarado?
Yeah, I just want to, just for the record, we are not looking for a recommendation from this organization as to whether or not public education is actually moving in the right direction here in Central Unified, or whether we should turn our 16,000 student district into a charter district. I mean, that is not the scope of the work that we've asked them to do. The reality is that we've asked them to come in and look at the data. And I've been a data guy for many, many years. The data isn't going to lie, but it's going to be helpful to see have a third party, independent party, come in and take a look at our data and see what it's telling us. They're also going to speak to our teachers and listen to them and hear what they have to say about the instruction taking place in their classroom, the curriculum, the support that they're receiving from the district, the resources that they have. Do they have the tools to get the work done that needs to get done? That's going to come straight from our teachers, nobody else. And so, we're pretty confident in the scope that's been provided, and the proposal that is in front of us. As Mrs. Davis just mentioned, there was two other companies. The first one came in to just shy of about, what, 500,000 to do this work, and then that number dropped down to 250,000. And I believe that's where they stayed. That was a little bit of a red flag in my own opinion, but what we're asking here is, accountability is not an easy thing. It's hard work, and at times it can be really messy. But if we really want to start making a difference and start moving the needle here in this district, we need to find out where our challenges lie, so that we can focus with a laser-like precision on those areas that need to be addressed, so that we're maximizing our teaching and learning. That's all we're trying to do here. That's it. And it's not only going to, and guess what? It's just as much as it's making it may be making our teachers nervous, or our classified folks nervous, it's making our administrators nervous. That's okay, because at the end of the day, it's going to be our kids that are going to benefit from this work. And that's all we're trying to do here, is figure out exactly what kind of resources and services our teachers need, and we can actually put the money where it's supposed to go, in order to be as effective and efficient as a district as possible when it comes to teaching and learning. That's our goal. That's it. No more, no less. I'm not trying to reinvent the evaluation tool or form or how teachers are being evaluated. We're not going to try to measure the effectiveness of our teachers union, because I heard that today too. Has nothing to do with that. Not even one iota. Not interested in that. And we just mentioned what it is that we're interested in. And if you look at the proposal, it's very clearly written out. On page, what page is that?
It's the third unnumbered page.
Yeah, it's the second page. There's 1 through, they're numbered. It's pretty clear. It has nothing to do with anything else other than what's listed there on that proposal.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes.
Trustee Cervantes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When's the last time the district did anything like this?
We couldn't find this same sample, and I've been in, other than one period of time in another school district, for 29 years.
sometimes I feel like we're too analytical. And I'm very in favor of this. I desperately want to move the needle for our students, and I desperately want to put our students first. So I happen to disagree with kicking the can down the road. I know it's only 2 weeks, but the reality is I'm only one vote. And if the consensus of the board is to table it, I disagree. I just want to go on record for that. I think this is a wonderful thing, and it's a step in the right direction. And we desperately need to move the needle in this district. It's not about pointing fingers, it's about let's fix it. And I believe this is a let's fix it move. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? And I think we may arrive at the same place, whether this carries today or it returns May 25th. And I too support conducting such an analysis. But I would like to hear from Fresno Unified, because I know that they have an entire department that is focused on equity and access, and is constantly analyzing and training their administration and their teachers. So any additional information, not only to provide for our board, but our community within the district and outside our district, so that everyone feels comfortable and understands the purpose of this contract. So if there are no further comments or questions on this item, we will move this to a vote. So all in favor of tabling this item to return to our May 25th agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I will also vote yes. Any opposed?
Yes.
Yes. And is it possible to call for a hands vote? Because I can't tell who's saying yes and who's saying no. Well, I heard the no.
Well, we have 2 no votes, Trustee Cervantes and Trustee Mailing. And so motion carries 5-2, tabling the item to May 25th, 2021.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can administration please meet with the Teachers Association to address any concerns they have pertaining to this item? My point in supporting the table was not that I disagree with the need to do an audit, but perhaps there could be discussion about the proposed vendor or another vendor. Thank you.
If there's no objection from the board, I hear no objection. So if we can have administration just meet and address any concerns before our next board meeting. Thank you. With that, we move on to action item L2, approve compensation and FTE increase for communications and public relations, Assistant Superintendent Collegian.
Thank you, President Carrillo and Board. Attached for your consideration are compensation and FTE modifications for the Communications Department. The purpose of this item coming forward today, tonight is to increase the salary of the Communication Public Relations Officer, and also to extend the hours of the social media clerk. Due to the growing needs of the department, the justification for the increase in salary is to recruit and attract highly qualified candidates who are seeking employment in this area of work. The backups for salary comparisons are also attached to this item. Generally, the needs of the department as it grows continues to work in the following areas: to communicate critical information effectively to the public, write press releases and prepare information for distribution to media outlets and community, arrange interviews for school district officials, teachers, and administrators, respond to requests for information for media outlets, and to help maintain and uphold a certain image and identity of our school district in the greater community. Also, in the world of information superhighway, access to timely and important information is critical. As such, the Communications Department is that connecting point to our community. Knowing our organization and working with departments to provide the community and the press with reliable, accurate, and complete information is essential for both of these positions. Allow me to explain the modifications for the 2 positions we currently have. The first one is the Communications and Public Relations Officer. The modification would take the salary range from $64,000 to $78,000 to a new proposed range to $85,000 to $94,000. Those figures don't include statutory costs. The approximate increase from the current position to the proposed change would be approximately $18,500. The second position, digital communications social media clerk, taking the hours from 4 to full-time, would engage health and welfare and increase the statutory cost as well. The approximate increase in that cost is about $44,000 approximately. The proposal to make the changes to both positions would result in a cost increase of approximately $62,000. Administration is recommending approval of this item. We are happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public in person or telephonically?
At this time, we don't have any comments.
Thank you. Board discussion? Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing no comments or questions, what are the wishes of the board on this item?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by trustee Solis. Is there a second? I have a second by trustee Brooks. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item L3, approved district facilities master plan. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you, President Carrillo. So tonight, the board has before it the final version of the facilities master plan. We reviewed this previously on March 16th board meeting as well as April 27th. I want to thank the board for all of their input. I think we had some good discussions, and also want to thank the staff for their participation, our Mr. Martinez and his facility staff, our school staff, and our district administrators who participated in the process of putting this document together. And I think what we have with this plan is a document that will be guiding our actions for the next several years, and I think it reflects the priorities that we talked about at the last meeting with the completion of Justin Garza High School and the next phase of that high school, as well as the next elementary school and improvements to Central High School. So with that, I would like to recommend that the board approve the plan tonight.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Board discussion? Any comments or questions from the board? Trustee Paul?
Thank you. Under in the executive summary, this is a minor item, and we might have already covered it, I just don't remember. There's a $2 million plus item for Tilly, and I don't see that detailed as far as on the timeline. Is that just a placeholder because we know we're going to have things to fix down the road, or is it for something specific?
Which page are you referring to?
That would be page, is that 7? Page 7?
Is it the executive summary?
Yes, executive summary, 2.3 million. And then the next page where the timeline is laid out, or the priorities, or the phases, I don't see it in there.
We asked Mr. Martinez to come up. The 2.3 million is listed under the modernization section. Is that the amount you're referring to?
Yep, that's it.
Yep. Mr. Martinez?
Take a look at their site real quick. That was our consultant's estimated cost to convert everything back from the temporary Tilly back to playable surface with grading, drainage, irrigation, things like that.
Okay, can you say that, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That is our consultant's estimated cost to convert the temporary Tilly Elementary School back into green space with irrigation, drainage, things like that.
Great, thank you.
Huh?
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing nothing further, what are the wishes of the board on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Solis. I have a second by trustee Paul. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item L4, approve resurfacing of running tracks at Kauffman Stadium and Collegian Stadium. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you, President Carrillo. So the tracks that we have at Collegian Stadium and Kauffman Stadium are deteriorated and in need of resurfacing at this time to provide suitable facilities for our students. So we have tonight proposals from AstroTurf Corporation to resurface those two tracks. The cost of $409,000 would be funded with deferred maintenance funds using a piggyback contract that AstroTurf has with Omnia, the cooperative bid. And we are recommending that the board approve this project. This is another project that will benefit Central High School campus as well as the Collegian Stadium. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Board discussion, trustee Cervantes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How many bids have we received for this project?
So this was done again on a cooperative bid, so we did not do our own bid solicitation.
When was the last time that either of these stadiums was last surfaced?
Yeah. So to the best of my knowledge, these are the original track surfaces. There may have been some minor repairs here and there, but as far as a resurfacing, this is the first time that's been done.
And then what's the lifespan? How frequently is this supposed to be done, or is it just as it's needed, or there's funding?
My understanding is these improvements, if we keep the track well maintained, could last up to approximately 10 years.
Great. Any other questions or comments? What are the wishes of the board on this item?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Cervantes. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by trustee Brooks. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And our final item under action items, L5, approve energy savings contract with Synergistic LLC. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you, President Carrillo. So tonight we have an energy savings contract with Synergistic, who has years of experience with helping school districts such as ours to reduce their energy consumption. Our goal is to spend as little as possible on our utility bills so that we can redirect our dollars to more higher priorities. This proposal is projecting a net savings over 5 years of approximately $2 million and is a guaranteed savings over the program costs. If we don't meet our program costs, they will write a check back. And so I wanted to provide some more information for the board tonight. So I have some guests with us. I'll ask them to come forward, and starting with Mr. Bill McGuire. Some of you may know Mr. McGuire as the former assistant superintendent at Clovis Unified, and he has had experience with the company and is able to share a little bit of that experience and what he's learned through that process. We also have Mr. Jonathan Ward, who is with Synergistic, who was on the phone with us in previous conversations, and he will be able also to speak to what Synergistic can provide over and above what our staff are able to do in-house. So with that, I'll kick it off with Mr. McGuire.
Great, jump on real quickly. President of the board, members, staff. I was a longtime administrator in Clovis Unified School District, went on to be a superintendent in St. Helena Unified, and now am doing consulting work with Synergistics. Back in the day when in Clovis Unified, when we first adopted the program, they came to Fresno Unified in the morning and Clovis Unified in the afternoon. Fresno said yes. Clovis said, we don't need you. I said, we don't need you. We can do it ourselves, and we created the Watt Buster program. We hired Annie Amps, and we went on to do a great program. A couple years later, we were talking to our friends at Fresno Unified. They were saving about over 25%. We were saving about 12. At that point, the competition between Fresno and Clovis was intense. We were not going to lose. So we called Synergistic back and said, we'd like to work with you. When we did, that program became one of the best in the state of California. And they still have it today. They learned from Synergistics and have implemented and maintained it. They were one of the best programs with Synergistics, and in my opinion, one of the best programs today in energy savings, but from the work that they learned from Synergistics. When you think about what it was then, it was a shotgun approach. What I'm looking at now is a program with software, with a laser approach to how to save energy in the unoccupied times, which is critical to the work that you would do to save energy. And so throughout California, I've been working with many districts. Currently, right now, I'm a fiscal advisor for two school districts. I Zoom with them twice a month. Glad to see that you're in person. Appreciate that immensely for the children in this district and the public. But I came to work with Synergistics after I retired. One of the things I said to them is you have to offer a better solution for schools, and you got to provide more funds back to the schools at the beginning years of the program. And that's what they did, and you're one of the first programs that is offering that. So the return to districts in the front years is much higher than it was when Clovis did it, when Fresno did it, when Sanger did it, when Madera did it, when many of the districts around this area have already contracted with Synergistics and been very successful in that contracting. We have Jonathan here to answer any questions or anything you want to add.
Yeah, if I may, thank you, Board President Creo, and members of the board for having us come and give a little more context. So just in some of the recap some of the comments that have already been made. So what we're expecting to see in this program would be a net savings of $2 million back to the district. So that's after all the fees of the program. So that would be going back to the district. And in the very first year, there would be we're estimating about $330,000 net savings back to the district. And I already heard some of the cost items today, like the AstroTurf is about $400, so that would almost maybe cover the AstroTurf that you're about to replace. So that's our goal at Synergistic, is to bring back dollars back into the school district. And another big thing I like to point out is that these are not going to be new dollars that are going to be spent, because this is going to be coming from your existing budget. You're currently spending about 3.5 million dollars currently. What we want to do is reduce that expenditure and bring that back into the school district, and that's our goal at Synergistic, is to bring money back into your core competency of teaching. So you can do things like History Day. I was really excited when I heard about History Day, because that's what I did. I did when I was in high school. I did a Natural History Day on the Holocaust, and it was really impactful to me on kind of what I learned in that situation. So these are the type of things that we would hope that you could put your dollars to. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Thank you. Board discussion, any comments, questions? Trustee Mailing?
Yes. Can you explain exactly what you're going to do? Just because I hate to sacrifice comfort for a little savings, especially for the teachers and the students. I don't understand exactly where are you saving?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So comfort is a very key thing to us. So there's no compromise on comfort. Actually, school districts, and you could probably speak from your own testimony, that comfort actually tends to increase with the program. So for example, like a hot day today, a lot of times we kind of overcompensate and we put on the air conditioning really high, and then you end up wearing a sweatshirt or a sweater in the classroom because now you're really cold because it's so hot. Or vice versa, right? When it's cold outside, sometimes we get too hot in the classrooms. And that's the excess use of energy. What we want to do at Synergistic is make sure that we find the ideal temperatures for every single classroom. And for that, there's no blanket approach of just, hey, this is what we're gonna implement at all the schools. We actually customize, so our engineers are gonna come out and we're gonna assess every single building and every single classroom to figure out, hey, what's the ideal temperature for this particular environment? Because different buildings act differently. Some are built newer and they have better insulation, they have better equipment. Some are older, so you need to use your equipment a little differently. And so that's our approach to making sure that there's no comfort issues with the school district. Yeah, hopefully that helps to address that concern.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Trustee Solis?
Where I can appreciate the warm and fuzzy statements you have made in your presentation, my question is, what strategies are you going to use above the strategies currently being used by our staff here? So if you're going to say some of the same strategies, tell me exactly what I'm looking for is an example of, if you're going to do the same strategy, how much more are you going to give us, or what is going to be the difference in the strategy?
Do you want to say that? Okay.
So I think, first of all, your staff's doing a great job. And I commend every maintenance operations staff in schools today. They are doing a fantastic job for the job that they're doing. The issue is there's more work than that can be done. Plain and simple, everybody within the organization. Now we all do those things that we need to do. But what we don't have is the skill and expertise to be able to see the systems, because our folks do this much. Synergistics does this much. And they're experts at doing this. And the difference is that with the software and the utilities, there's going to be someone out there at 2 o'clock in the morning determining why that school is running. That's what their job is. The software pinpoints it and says, we run a model of the school. What should it be doing? Where is it off? Okay, it's off. Something's wrong right now. It's running. So let's make sure it's off if it's not supposed to be on. If it is supposed to be on, let's make sure it's efficient and effective as everyone. That's possible. The second thing that's very important is the energy specialist is trained not only in HVAC and how to handle that, but the human dynamics. The human dynamics of how I'm going to help a teacher work through that I have a comfort issue. My wife had a comfort issue in Clovis Unified. The people who figured it out were the energy specialists, that they moved her from one room to another and we forgot to update it, right? So that's what, they bring a higher level of detail, not sophistication, but detail to what it is that they do best, and they allow your staff to do what they do best. Hope that answers your question.
Actually, no, it didn't.
Okay.
My question, let me rephrase it. What are the strategies your company's going to use to get us to where you're saying you're going to get us?
Okay. Yeah, so the strategies are going to differ from when we come out here and assess your site. So every site is different. But I could give you some examples of different things that occur in buildings. But I just want to reiterate, again, there's no blanket strategy where we can just say, hey, this is what we do for every single building, and then you're going to save a bunch of energy. Our engineers are going to come out, and when we call it an implementation program, is we spent the first 60, 90 days making sure that we're learning every single building, we're identifying each piece of equipment, and then figuring out how to optimize them. So, for example, some strategies. So for some buildings, what we'll find is that maybe the temperature is actually not the issue, but it's the humidity that's going on in that classroom. So that causes a comfort complaint. So the temperature when you look at the thermostat, it may look like, hey, you should be comfortable. But when we take measurements and we realize, hey, the humidity in here is not comfortable, what we're going to do is we're going to send in an energy specialist to help identify that. And if it takes even more, if that energy specialist is not able to directly figure out that issue, we're going to call engineering support. So behind that energy specialist that's going to be here on site for the whole duration of the program, that's going to be our employee, but it's going to be working with you all, and you're actually going to have say in who the person is. It's not our decision. It's going to be a mutual decision. They're going to be ones calling upon the engineering support, whatever that particular issue is. Another strategy is a lot of times, Mr. Bill McGuire here mentioned that a lot of times at night, EMS system, so that's your building management system, may be saying it's not running, but at night, our energy specialist in the software is able to see, hey, at that gym, it looks like we're using excess energy for some reason at 2 a.m. at night. Is there a reason? Maybe there is actually some work being done. but a lot of times there's not, and that what we're gonna do is go out there at 2 a.m. in the morning and identify that and make sure that we're fixing those issues. Did that help?
You got me halfway there. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Trustee Maley?
Yes, is there a reason why we need to do a 5-year contract? Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, if we did a 1-year contract and if it's a software-driven deal, we'd buy our software and we'd be
Yep.
happy. I'm just curious, why is a 5-year contract necessary?
Yeah, great question. So the reason that it's a 5-year contract is because it's behavioral based. A lot of things, like, right, we do have software and we do have energy specialists that are going to come out and identify these issues. But some of the things have to do with behavioral of how we're using facilities and how we do things. So kind of like probably when you implement things in the school district, right? Maybe a new math program or something like that. It doesn't happen just like at the snap of a finger. It takes some time. So we usually find really around that 3rd year is actually when we start seeing some real change in not just the engineering that we're doing, but also the behavior that's going along with the program. I don't know if you have any examples of that.
Yeah, I think one of the many things that I've done in life was the chairperson of the School Energy Coalition, which is made up of schools throughout California. Energy reduction is rowing upstream all the time, swimming upstream all the time. And as soon as you stop rowing, you flow right back to where you were. And so the reason for the 5-year contract is so that you can continue to get further and further up the stream, and then keep it going once Synergistic is no longer with the district, but has everyone in the district trained on how to implement the best strategies.
Thank you.
Trustee Paul?
Thank you. In your professional experience, in your experience working with other districts, kind of across the board, as far as fixes go, you talk about checking things out at 2 in the morning. You talk about, looking at different parameters like humidity and things like that. But there's also the physical component of it, and I see that in your presentation.
Right.
What percentage-wise, is it usually more behavioral, little modifications like humidity, changing humidity versus facility retrofit, weather strip, that kind of stuff? Is there a common dividing line or percentage that you see between the two? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I do want to clarify one thing. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding you. So when we notice things in regards to mechanical things, we're not an equipment vendor. We're not an ESCO. We're not going to try to sell any equipment. But when we do notice things, hopefully we will identify something easy that we can just fix. And if it's a larger issue, then we're going to talk to the facilities team and make them aware of that. But to give you a percentage.
But you're going to identify that as a major issue if it is.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. And then we'll let the facilities team know, and then that's kind of a judgment call on kind of the direction you want to go. But we will give our engineering kind of background, and we'll kind of give our consensus of what we think would be a good option. We do also have a tool, it's called Simulate, in which we say, hey, this is what if you currently use this tool and you continue to just kind of limp it along, hey, that might actually be the best solution. Maybe it might be nice to look at to get this new shiny tool, but we'll run a simulation model and let you know, hey, this is what the cost comparison would be like, something like that. So our goal ultimately is that you would keep your existing equipment if it's working and keep it going as long as possible, because we know new equipment is really pricey. You're welcome. Thank you.
So one of the largest components, or I guess selling points with this contract is a potential savings of $2 million. And this may address some of the questions that have been asked. But can you share a little bit about how you arrived at that estimated savings? And that may be able to provide us a better idea of what we can expect in addition to some of the examples that you've shared and, checking the humidity or checking to see what are the issues related to comfort or where are we running excess energy.
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think another thing that was mentioned here a lot was being data-driven, and we're very much a data-driven company. And so when we took our first assessment, before we even started our discussion, we actually asked for what we call an opportunity profile. And we got your electricity, your water, your gas, your solar, all your commodities that you're currently using. And then we ran it against our model. So we've been in business for over 35 years. And so we have a lot of data that we're able to compare. There's also state data that we're also able to access. And we're able to see kind of what the cost per square foot. So in one of our presentations, we addressed what the cost per square foot is. It was actually a little higher than the average state cost per square foot. So the average is $2 in California. And you're all, I believe, at $2.30 something. And then our synergistic clients that are like you are at $1.76. And so that's where we arrived to our conclusion of that $2 million. And when we say like clients, we take into consideration, right, you have in elementary schools are different than in high schools and things like that. And also class sizes, and how many students are in your district. So there's a lot of different things that we build into our models to be able to come up with our projections for you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Can I ask something real quick?
Okay, let me just make sure we don't have, or comments from the board? Okay, Superintendent Alvarado?
So what happens if we don't hit the $2 million mark?
Great question. So so to do the cost of the program, what we guarantee is that you cannot be in the negative. So let's just real simple math. Let's say the program cost, $100, right? And we only saved you $50, then we would have to write you a difference of that 50. So if we don't at least save you the amount of the cost of the program, we have to write a check to the difference. So at the end of the day, you can't be red with the program. But obviously, our goal is to get you to higher net savings, and that's that $2 million. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Solis?
motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Trustee Solis. Is there a second? I have a second by Trustee Paul. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to our information items. Our first item is M1, receive information on Central High School, and we are going to be hearing from our area administrators.
They're going to get the presentation ready. It will be up there if we can just
Awesome.
get a couple of minutes to get it ready. And then Mr. Garrett, Dr. Boatwright, and Principal Holterman's somewhere there.
All right, good evening, President Creel, members of the board, and Superintendent Alvarado. Again, my name is Jeff Garrett, and I'm joined this evening by Dr. Tammy Boatwright and his area administrators. We are excited to provide information on the tremendous opportunities at Central High School heading into the 2021-2022 school year. We are also joined this evening by Mr. Dave Holterman, who is the principal of Central High School, and we want to take a minute and thank him and his staff. We appreciate all that he and his staff have done up to this point already in preparing for next year, and the things that will continue to happen as we prepare. So we're going to look into the tradition, the history, and the legacy of Central High School. So as we look into the next 100 years, as we get ready to celebrate the first 100 years, obviously we will have some upgrades that will be taking place on campus. Some of those were mentioned earlier tonight in regards to the track and some of the fields, but we're also looking to have some new ag labs, lectures and labs built, classroom modernization, some new facilities in the areas of cafeteria, storage and stage, and some of the admin buildings, library, et cetera. Again, some of the athletic facilities, including the indoors, gym, wrestling room, and then those outdoor improvements, scoreboards, fields, track, and restrooms that will begin this summer of 2021. When we look at enrollment, as Central High School is a school of choice heading into next year, we had initial projections as we went through the process over the course of this year. As you see in the middle column for each grade level, we were anticipating around 900 students projected. Our current enrollment actually, as of today, sits at 984. We added a couple more since the slide was put together, and excited as students continue to choose Central High and that we've exceeded that 900 original projection. In regards to WASC accreditation, we will be submitting information to WASC, identifying Central High School as its independent self. We will also remain, though currently, under its current WASC accreditation cycle, and we'll have a spring visit in 2022, as well as a one-day substantive change visit as part of the process in the fall of 2021. One of the exciting aspects of Central High School next year is early college, so I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Boatwright to share some information in regards to early college.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. So I'm excited to be here tonight to share some information with you on our early college program. So students are going to be able to simultaneously earn their high school diploma and up to 2 years of college credit. This is in partnership with Fresno City College. We're going to be offering students an Associate of Arts degree. They'll have 2 options. This is in Liberal Studies, Social Science. There will be either an emphasis in careers in education or public safety. Now, for those students that are not interested in one of those career paths, they'll be able to take up to 2 years of transferable college courses. And then in addition, for our students that are pursuing careers in public health, they'll be able to take transferable college courses that will qualify for the prerequisites for the nursing program at Fresno State. And then in addition, we'll also be offering enrichment courses outside of the school day. We do that now, but our plan is to increase those significantly for next year. These are our registration numbers for next year. Right now, we have 12 students that are on board to pursue the AA degree, and once again, in careers in education or in public safety. We have a total of 61 students that are registered to take college courses. This is in addition to the students that are already signed up to take our dual enrollment courses. So our plan in the future is to grow this program. We're excited to launch it for next year, and we do have our first parent night tomorrow night. Thank you.
So when we look at our career and technical education, or our CTE pathways, again, CTE is fundamental knowledge and skills that prepare our students for career-ready transitions to post-secondary education, career training, or the workforce. It's a sequence of 2 or more courses in a student's specific area of interest, and again are designed to connect our high school students to classes, or high school classes to college, industry certifications, and or a career. What you'll see is on this next slide our course sequence for the career technical education pathways that will be offered at Central High School next year under the agriculture and natural resources heading, as well as education, health science and medical tech, and public services. When we look at our CTE registration going into 2021, 2022, next school year, you will see by each pathway the number of students who are currently enrolled for next year in a CTE course. This does not, these students could also be part of our early college program. So some of those students that Dr. Boatwright had spoken about in her information could also be represented here. But again, we're excited to see, looking at an enrollment right now of 980, 412 students are currently enrolled next year in a CTE course. Our West Arts Center, the WAC, is going to be embedded on our Central High School campus next year with relocating for the school year. We are excited as those programs, modern dance, ballet, guitar, and piano, will be housed at Central High School, and that those students who participate in those would be able to do so with not having to have additional shuttling between Central High School and the WAC. As well as they get to continue to participate with some of the visual and performing arts courses that are provided at Central East Campus, as well as the athletic programs, as those 2 campuses will still be joined in athletics and in some of the visual and performing arts. With the relocation to the WAC to Central High School, we are still looking at having about 10 to 15% of facilities on the campus still being accessible for expansion, whether that's courses or whatever that may be, looking at, again, that 85 to 90% usage for next year. Grizzly Pride runs strong. As an alumnus myself of Central High School, Grizzly Pride just, it lives in you. And so we're excited to maintain that orange and black school colors traditionally, as well as currently the incoming 9th through 12th graders for next year are participating in a survey to get their input in regards to the crest and the C that we will use. The crest is based on the original crest, which was on the original slide. And the C's that were provided in the survey are historical C's, the Cincinnati Bearcat, Chicago Bear, but also a C that actually with our, when we were looking into it and researching it, we found all the way back in the 1950s as one of the C's that was used at that time. So those surveys are being completed currently. Co-curricular opportunities and competitions, of course, an important part of any high school experience are these things. And our high school students in Central High School will continue to be able to participate in ASB, clubs, rallies, dances, spirit weeks, continue that strong tradition of our competitions, both academic and when you're looking at visual and performing arts, and our agriculture with the Fresno Fair, academic decathlon, Odyssey of the Mind, and science fair, to name a few. Recruitment as a school of choice is extremely important, and as we look into future recruitment, as the years continue on, we have our introduction to ag course in our middle schools. Our reach into the middle schools and having our 8th grade students be able to have an idea of what awaits them at Central High School as a school of choice is important. And so we have started in the fall of 2021 an introduction to ag course at our 3 middle schools and to be offered also for 8th grade at Houghton Kearney. We are excited, already receiving very strong interest from our current 8th grade students in that course. Of course, we'll also continue with flyers, Parent Square, social media, webinars, parents' nights, but also looking for additional possible opportunities for incoming freshmen to visit the campus, as well as our CTE, early college staff, high school counselors going onto their campuses prior to the registration process moving forward. Opportunities for the future, we want to include potential expansion. And as we look to grow, those could include additional associate arts degree opportunities, as well as potential expansion in our CTE pathways that we will offer. Fire Academy and Law Academy are a couple that have been mentioned and are of high interest as potential expansions in the future. So in closing, we thank you for the opportunity tonight to share the great opportunities that await the students who choose to be part of the tradition, the history, and the legacy of Central High School. We are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation. Do we have any comments from the public? No? Okay. Discussion by the board? Any comments or questions? Trustee Solis?
The early college program, the AA, is transferred to a 4-year college or university?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. So the credits that students will be taking, all of those college courses are UC transferable or state transferable.
Okay. I'd like to thank the staff for their hard work in the early college program. It's something new offered within our district. For the parents and the community out there, this is a really great opportunity for your children. Please consider it, especially when it comes time to paying those bills for college. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Trustee Cervantes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. About how many kids are participating in the arts, performing arts, the old WAC program? Currently?
Currently, I do not have that number with me this evening, but we can look into that and provide that to you.
Yeah, and I want to kind of parallel Mr. Solis's question. If kids go to a junior college, they're given preference into the UC system upon accomplishing their will they still receive that preference, or is it just adequate?
No, it's not set up that way at this time. So students, when they apply to college after they graduate from high school, they will apply as freshmen, even though they could have up to 2 years of transferable credit. At that time, their transcripts are sent to the college, and then the college decides where students enter their program at that time.
Okay, so again, they will not receive that same preference if they went to the JC. Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Trustee Paul?
Thank you for the presentation. That was inspiring. And you're right, I'm a Central grad too, and it stays with you. Central West, Maine Central High School. I do have some concerns, though, related to the drop in enrollment with the new high school. We just went through some changes with regard to offering and things like that. And my understanding is that we've been struggling to fill AP classes. Is that, number one, is that true or not? And what's the plan for recovering? Number two, I understand that, and I don't know if this is true either, do we offer any STEM AP classes at West, at Central High School?
And I'm sorry, you said STEM AP classes? I'm not aware of any STEM AP classes that are currently offered at the West Campus. Mr. Holterman, are you able to speak to that question?
No STEM specific. It's all of the same.
Can you speak into the mic? Sorry. Our audience can't hear you.
By the way, thank you for allowing us to give the presentation. Thank you, Dr. Boatwright and Mr. Garrett. No, there's no STEM specific AP classes, but it is all the same AP classes that we have. What we do have is our welding class, which next year we're going to pick that up also as a dual enrollment class as well, which has some of the same impact as an AP class, if that's kind of the question that you were asking.
Well, with regard to STEM, if there aren't any offered, is there a plan for moving in that direction? Maybe as enrollment increases, do we have a plan for that?
Do you have a specific class that you're thinking of? Because in my mind, I'm just going down the list of AP classes, and there is no AP specific STEM class.
How about the question with regard to reduction in enrollment in existing AP classes?
Again, I can find out. Obviously, when we go down from 1,900 to 1,000, there's a dispersion, but we're attempting to bring all of the same classes to the West Campus.
So obviously, the concern is not having enough enrollment to continue those classes.
We're working really hard to make sure that those opportunities are available. We're looking at every single one, to see if that's. We're going to try really hard to make sure that all of those AP classes and those students can stay at Central High School.
Understood. Yeah, and I appreciate that. The reality is the reality, and I just want to know if those kinds of classes are at risk.
Well, the reality is that those students that are on the AP track, maybe in answering the STEM question, what AP offerings do we offer in mathematics? What AP offerings do we offer in science? So we have AP Calculus, for example, or
we have AP Stat. So AP Stats, AB Calc, BC Calc. We have AP Chem. We have AP Bio. Those are specific STEM. Were those the classes you were?
STEM.
I wasn't thinking of specific classes in general, but I mean mathematics, science, just generally scientific and
the only one under the STEM umbrella for AP that we do not offer from that list would be the environmental science, but we do have some specialized courses for that as well.
So with that being said, I mean, sometimes you're going to have 6, 7, 8 kids that are qualifying for a BC, for example. We have to offer that with that number of students. It's not going to go anywhere. Because if not, those students will go somewhere else, and it won't be here. It'll be in a nearby district that is offering it. So, AP offerings are those courses at the high school level that are very, very unique and specialized. And I've been in a situation where we had 4 or 5 kids taking a BC calculus class that we offered to those 5 students because they needed it, at their senior year. And so, we're going to continue, as Mr. Holterman just mentioned, we're not going to get rid of programs. We're going to need to figure out a way to do that and make sure that it is being offered.
Good, because that was a commitment we made. I just want to make sure that we are going to stay that course.
We're still 100% committed to that, yeah.
If I can also add, one of the things we learned in the early college process is there are some students who typically would have been on an AP pathway, if you were to call it that, who now, when given the chance to take college courses, might defer the AP course to the dual enrollment course. And so as all of the districts were opening up early college, that became a question about what happens to AP, because a student may not want to do both. So we're learning from those that tracked before
Right.
us.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
And I know that's not an easy question, and I know you're playing with, you had significant reduction or you're gonna have significant reduction enrollment. I just wanna bring that up as a concern and make sure that we're thinking about it and addressing it. Thank you.
I know Trustee Chan may have a comment or a question, but I just wanted to address, Trustee Paul, your concern about the reduction in enrollment. And we, at some point, all participated in the transition.
High school transition.
The high school
committee.
transition team, and that was one of the concerns, right? Like, how do we maintain enrollment so that it's still right? I mean, I don't know, school districts don't break even, but to the extent that we can continue to provide a program, a substantial program to our students, how do we do that? And I recall that our goal was always to get to at least 900. Right? I mean, am I remembering that correctly? So to hear, and I think ultimately maintaining the discussions that occurred, maintaining at least 1,000 students was still, and again, I don't want to say anything incorrectly, but it still makes it worth upgrading that campus or providing all those courses. And we've made that commitment. And so that's really the task that we've assigned to administration. How do we get creative about ensuring that we're offering all these additional programs to our students? So while it is a significant reduction, I was actually excited to hear about the 984 students since they are choosing that program. And I want to allow Trustee Chan to ask his question or make his comment, but I do have a few more questions about that enrollment. But I just wanted to share that's really exciting that we do have 984 students.
Agreed. Thank you.
I was just going to actually clarify Mr. Paul's or Trustee Paul's comment about the AP step, but it's been addressed. Thank you.
So of the 984 students, how many of them are new students attending the campus? Because I assume some of them are returning, either they're staying there because they're already participating in these programs.
So in terms of new students, next year, the incoming freshman number currently stands at 154.
Okay.
So those would be new students to the campus. You could also have, students that move into the area and join Central High School from this point forward in the other grade spans. But the other students that are in sophomores, juniors, and seniors are existing Central High School students who are choosing to stay.
Okay. And as far as, I know you talked about parent night and sending out some of our advertisements on our parent square. Are we thinking about ensuring that our counselors at our campuses are aware of these programs and are informing our students of these other programs? So whether there's any interest, just so that they know of the availability, because I know we talk about it here and we may be aware and we're getting all these emails and notifications, but kids and parents don't always receive them anyway.
No, I think both communication to our community as well as the opportunity to answer questions is an important piece, as it is school choice, that our students and our families are able to understand the extent of what their student would be receiving by choosing that program or that pathway at Central High School. And that's why definitely including those on-campus visits and opportunity prior to registration, but also important that we get our staff teaching, whether we had mentioned the CTE teachers or early college teachers and the counselors into our middle school campuses, as well as Houghton Kearney prior to registration is going to be an important part of the process next year.
So, and also this year, we'll be working in partnership with Fresno City College. We have a specific counselor at Fresno City College, Ya Zhang, who is working closely with our counselors with our early college program. So she'll stay in contact for the entire school year and beyond. Also working in partnership with our parents and our families to ensure that our students are successful.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Solis?
More of a comment. I would just like to echo the statements that this board has shown their support or continuing support for, I'll call it the West Campus. We approved some projects today. Board members have bumped up some projects that were lower on the list and now bringing them up. We understand the community wants that campus there, and we're supporting that campus. Thank you.
I have one last question, sorry. You mentioned the WAC Center and moving courses. So what's gonna happen to that building? Are we just only gonna be using it for performing, or are we no longer using it? What is the impact in relocating those courses?
We're assessing that as we speak. So, that facility may become available down the road for other programs, but we're still analyzing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you all for being here as well.
Thanks.
Our next item is receive information regarding the Western Association of Schools and Colleges self-study and accreditation.
Got 2 schools represented, so you hear from both Dr. Boatwright and Mr. Perez.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, good evening once more. So class went through WASC accreditation this year. Their report is attached for you to review. I'm happy to announce that they received a 6-year accreditation, which is the highest accreditation possible. They will have a mid-year cycle visit, mid-year or midway through, but we are excited to announce that they did receive that accreditation.
Good evening, board members, President Carrillo, and Superintendent Alvarado. It brings me great pleasure to announce that ASC WASC commissioners have determined Central Online Homeschool has met all the criteria for accreditation for 3 years through June 30th, 2024. I'd like to publicly recognize Principal Colette Bolger, her amazing teachers, her staff who participated in the event. Also, we had students, community members, we had a few board members, and Superintendent Alvarado also was part of it. We're excited to continue to provide a rigorous, relevant coursework to prepare students for success in college, career, and community.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, discussion by the board? Trustee Solis?
Good job.
Yes.
Just real quick, the accreditation process through WASC is a huge thing. Okay, I mean, when you get accredited, that diploma, and when you get that diploma from an accredited school, it actually means that you come from an accredited school. It actually puts the weight on that diploma. So, to receive the accreditations for Central Online and also for class, especially a 6-year accreditation, I mean, that is the best that you can possibly get. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was invited to participate in I don't remember her name, but whoever was conducting the evaluation for our online school, she was very impressed. I know that she mentioned potentially providing some comments and some areas for us to grow and just really building the identity of the school and building that collaboration amongst the students and say our virtual, but overall based on a new program, she had very positive and high comments to provide. So kudos to our principal and to our administrators and all of our staff who have contributed and for this board for supporting and allocating the necessary funds and resources to make that happen. So thank you very much for that presentation and for information. Any other comments or questions from the board? Thank you. We move on to our item number 3, receive information regarding core and supplemental materials for secondary courses. Assistant Superintendent Davis.
Thank you. You will see attached there are 3, 2 are a textbook and 1 is a social emotional curriculum that are being requested by our schools. They do a review if there are textbooks that may be out of date or missing pertinent information. Staff are requesting that both a middle school elective for Consumer Family Services receive an updated textbook, as well as a high school elective for American Justice as well. And then lastly, a social emotional curriculum to add to what we already have in district labeled HERO. Each of those programs, 2 of them we have electronic access and 1 we have requested the book should any of you want to review it between now and the next meeting. Happy to answer any questions, otherwise we do recommend this come to the next meeting for action.
Thank you. If we do have any public comment on any of these items, thank you. Any board discussion? Trustee Chan?
Assistant Superintendent Davis, could I ask you, are we possibly missing a form? Because in the impact total, at least on the agenda item, the subtotals are quite off from there. So I was just wondering if we're possibly missing a page from some of the invoices.
I will check what you see online and make sure that if there is something missing, that it be added. Our librarian has done the updated orders and have those ready to go. So we'll check that for you.
Thank you.
I have them all printed, but I'll check to see how it transferred online.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, is there any objection to having this item return under consent? Okay, this item will return under consent to our May 25th meeting. Thank you. Receive information regarding expanded learning opportunities grant plan. Assistant Superintendent Davis.
Thank you, President Carrillo, members of the board. Tonight I'm going to present information and a draft for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Program, which is required for receipt for a portion of the AB 86 funds. Our plan must be approved by you by June 1st, so it can be submitted and is influenced by stakeholder input. We're expected to use the funds to accelerate learning over the course of the next 2 years for students and support that they need to re-engage in school following this disruption of over a year. Our plans must address 7 strategies. They're very specific about the strategies that we are to attend to, and 10% of our funds is intended to go to support our paraprofessionals or classified staff who are instrumental in helping support academics and the wellness of students in this process. As you notice in the draft plan, I have not included the expenditures yet. We are still working on developing the expenditures. We've had a very short timeline for when this template was released and our work to collect it. So I will have that to you quickly and well before it comes back for its next viewing. The plan aligns to our LCAP goals. We have 3 LCAP goals. That 3-year plan will come to you in June. We've made sure that this plan is meant to accelerate and move some of our actions at a quicker rate for 2 of those years of our ongoing work. As this is a first review, I do want to provide you time to read it, and I'll just briefly mention that the plan itself is certainly not hundreds of pages like an LCAP that requires as much. It's 7 pages. There are 6 sections in it that answer 6 very specific questions. The first one will clarify for you how we received stakeholder input, how we will identify the needs of students, what assessments do we use to identify who will benefit from services within the use of these funds, also how we will inform our families and our community in terms of the access to these supplemental instruction resources. The 4th component, which is actually on the 3rd page if you're looking down, and I'll make sure page numbers are also attached for you, gives a description of the plan. And so that's where you see the 7 strategies. The 7 strategies are listed and brief statements of the actions for each of those that I would be happy to answer questions on. The expenditure plan, and then how we'll use this in relation as well to ESSER funds, other resources that we have, is included in the plan. We recommend this item return. Ready to answer any questions that you have, but certainly know it's your first view of it, so I'd love to talk to you more about it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments at this point? Okay, if there are no objections, we'll have this item return under action. That way, if we do have any other questions, we can ask them next board meeting. Thank you. Item number 5, receive information regarding declaration of need for fully qualified teachers for the year 2021-2022. Assistant Superintendent Collegian.
Thank you, President Carrillo. Attached for your consideration is the annual declaration of need to be provided to the CTC, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The district annually must declare the number, type, and subject of interns and limited permits based on projected needs for the ensuing school year. By submitting this annual declaration, the district certifies that a diligent search has been conducted to recruit fully qualified teachers for specific subjects. For a point of context, Central Unified limits the use of interns and limited assignments in specialized fields such as special education, mathematics, and the sciences. Fiscal implications for the declaration will, of course, be dependent on the salary and benefits for teachers hired for such positions. Administration is recommending this item to be placed on the May 25th board agenda for action. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? If not, any objection to having this item return under consent?
President Creo, as much as I would appreciate
action.
the CTC does require this one to go for info action, but I am gracious and thankful for the opportunity for consent on this item.
Thank you. And I was just kidding. This item will return under consent, under
Thank
action.
you. That works. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Item number 6, receive information regarding resolution number 2021-41, establishing a special revenue fund for ASB financial activities. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you, President Carrillo. So this is kind of a mundane compliance issue that we have here to establish a new fund, Fund 08 for ASB activities, which all districts are complying with for what's known as non-fiduciary ASB financial activities. So it's just authorization to set up that special revenue fund for the end of this year as well as for next fiscal year. Be happy to answer any questions.
So where are we keeping that money now?
So there is it's called an agency fund, Fund 95. It really appears, if you look at the audit report at the end of the year, that's where you'll see it. So we have ASBs at our different school sites, but that accounting is finalized at the end of the year and reflected in our audited financial statements.
Okay, and we're legally now required to provide the separate fund for these specific funds, right?
It's
So we're
basically
still going
just
to continue to
moving
have.
one fund to another.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, and can this item return under consent?
It can, yes.
Okay. So if there are no objections, this item will return under consent to our May 25th board meeting. Thank you. Item number 7, receive information on adopting resolution number 2021-42, authorizing the borrowing of funds for fiscal year 2021, 2022, and the sale of tax and revenue anticipation notes and participation in the California School Cash Reserve Program. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you, and I apologize for the long title. If the board recalls, last year we talked quite a bit about trans and the need for trans with the return of deferrals that were imposed by the state last year. And if you recall, just a few months ago, we had a trans for this fiscal year that occurred in the amount of $14 million. So this is a trans for the upcoming fiscal year. We will know a little bit more about our projected cash flow dollars once we get the May revise later this week. But it's important to have the ability to have this in place should the need arise, even depending on what happens with state revenues next year, if things change over time, to be in place to issue a trans. So you see there's a timeline there that will happen over the next couple of months. Any trans that are sold would happen at the end of June, but we have some time, and as before, we would keep the board informed as to whether we actually issue the trans or not. And this item would need to return as an action item. This resolution enables us to authorize for an amount not to exceed $25 million.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board on this item? Okay, this item will return under action to our May 25th board meeting. Thank you. Item number 8, receive information regarding health benefit rates for the self-funded district healthcare plan for the 2021-2022 fiscal year.
Thank you. And so I want to talk about the annual health benefit rates. Our benefits committee meets monthly throughout the year. We have a committee that's comprised of representatives from CSEA, CUTA, the management, supervisory and confidential representatives, and district staff, along with our broker. And so we've been monitoring the performance of the plan throughout the year, and at this time the committee is making a recommendation for the upcoming school year to leave the rates at the same level. We are funded well for this year. We do not have a need at this time to raise the rates. If you recall, last year, there was an increase of the rates of 5%. And the history of the rates is reflected in the attachment. So at this time, we are funded and have the reserves in place to handle next year without any increases. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this item? Can this return under consent, or does it need to return under action?
It can.
Okay. If there is no objection, this item will return under consent to our May 25th board meeting. Thank you. Item number 9, receive information on legal services for 2021-2022. Assistant Superintendent McLean.
Thank you. So again, we're coming up on our yearly renewal. We got contracts given to us by the firms that we've been using this past year. We have Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Rude, and Romo, Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost, Lozano, Smith, and the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools that we've been using this year. We also have a new firm added to the list. That's Tal Rossini, one of the attorneys that we were working with at Atkinson Andelson recently moved to this new firm and is working on a specific case for us. And so he has expertise on the case that we are working with. We've been working with him for some time, so there's an interest. It's in the best interest of the district for staff to continue with that same attorney. We use mostly Atkinson. If you look at the activity that's reflected on the agenda, we use mostly Atkinson and Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost for our primary issues. Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost does a lot of special ed work for us. Atkinson works on a variety of issues, general counsel, personnel, facilities issues. And Fresno County, we use on a limited basis for more routine and local issues. These are firms that have served us well and allow us to utilize what we believe are the best attorneys for our district, and so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can you let us know what we use Lozano Smith for?
Currently, some facilities issues, looking at some contractual issues. In fact, the contract that we're about to talk about was Lozano Smith.
Any questions or comments on this item from the board? Trustee Paul?
Thank you. The top 2 firms, Atkinson, Adelson, Loya, et cetera.
Yes.
And then Fagan, both are going to implement a $15 an hour increase. Across the board, what percentage increase is that?
Well, they have different rates of, depending on, partners, senior partners, associates that are used. I would say it's about.
Understood. I'm just
yeah.
wondering across the board what kind of increase it would be percentage-wise.
Yeah, you're looking at about 4%, somewhere in that range.
4%.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember correctly, they were going to increase the rate last year and they didn't. Didn't we? And by we, I mean,
Yeah, I'll double check. I believe
you all negotiated.
They were holding the rates last year, and also in recognition of where the state was at and the school districts were at that time.
So effectively, we're looking at a couple of years of.
You could consider it a
Right,
two-year increase. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any requests to have this under consent, or can we bring this back under action? Any reservations? Okay, we can bring this back under consent, and as with any other item under consent, if anyone wishes to pull or have any questions about it, just let me or Superintendent Alvarado know, and we are happy to pull that item. Item number 10, receive information regarding memorandum of understanding with Thine, maybe? Thine and Buddhist Temple and Culture Centers for Fresno. I apologize if I mispronounced it.
Thank you, President Carrillo. Yeah, we are working together with the temple located adjacent to McKinley Elementary School. They are developing their property, and there are some offsite improvements that are needed to connect to the sewer service in that area with the city. And the district also has needs to construct improvements to tie to our septic tank on McKinley Elementary School property. we have an MOU that was prepared by our Lozano Smith attorney for a project which was bid out by the Temple. That project is anticipated to start very soon, and so we have reached a cost-sharing agreement, a memo of understanding, and the Temple would be the primary entity doing contracting with a contractor to do the construction work, and then we would reimburse them under the terms of the agreement that's attached. And so this is somewhat of a time-sensitive item, but we are bringing it for information. And so we're asking we will be bringing it back for the next meeting. I do have Mr. Martinez here to answer questions, as well as the architect that does work with us and with the Temple. That's Mr. Alan Mock. So be happy to answer any questions of the board.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? So I understand this MOU, we the district are agreeing to pay $207,000. Do we know what the total cost of the construction was or is?
Yes, and let me get that. I'll ask the gentleman just to come up. I know there may be some additional questions, and they may have that number right in front of them. I'm looking through my file here.
I was just more curious. I understand we have a responsibility, but I was curious how that was divided, with whether it was like a 50-50 split, or what were the considerations in determining what our responsibility is.
It's not 50-50. It's approximate, shared, but it's dependent on the work involved. And I'll let Alan
I think the
speak to
total
that.
cost is about 380,000.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the only question I had. Trustee Solis?
Question for Mr. Martinez. If for any reason after we start the process of the construction and the other partner in this bid decides they don't want to follow through for whatever the reason, or work is going to continue?
Repeat the last part?
If for any reason the other partner on this contract decides they don't want to follow through, they don't make payments, they want to quit, whatever, our project will still be completed at the rate cited, correct?
Correct. There is a requirement for the contractor to obtain a performance and payment bond.
Thank you.
And there's also indemnification clause in this MOU, so. Does this need to return under action, or can it return under consent?
It can return under consent.
Okay. Trustee Paul?
Yeah, I have another question. Just to be clear, and I probably should have done a better job reviewing this. So are all septic services on McKinley on-site septic currently?
Correct. There was one years ago that failed, and that was a tie-in directly to McKinley Elementary. There is another septic that we plan to tie in during the future modernization.
Yeah, okay, so we're tying in everything.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Any objection to having this item return under consent? Okay, this item will return under consent. Thank you all. And that'll conclude our information items. Advanced planning, Superintendent Alvarado.
Yes, thank you, President Carrillo. The 12-month calendar is attached. If you have any questions, please contact my office. I do want to thank Alvin, who's with us tonight, who's been cleaning the podium all night long. It does take a team, and there's another member of the team right there. Let's give Big Alvin a big round of applause. Thanks, Alvin.
Thank you. Additional information and closing comments. Is there any board member wishing to provide any closing comments or requests for information? Hearing nothing further. Okay. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 25th at 6 p.m. for our closed session, and 7 p.m. or as soon as thereafter for our public session. It'll take place here at the Central High School East Campus Performing Arts Center. We do not need to adjourn to closed session or reconvene. What are the wishes of the board with respect to adjournment? I have a motion by Trustee Chan. I have a second by Trustee Brooks. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night. What was that? Yeah, it is.